Yes.
Okay, so I call the April 12th meeting of the Wayland Wastewater Management District Commission meeting to order at 7:32. This meeting will be done via Zoom. The public's welcome to watch and participate remotely via the link that can be found on our webpage. And this meeting is being done in pursuant of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. So with that, I call the meeting to order. And is there any public comment? Doesn't look like it, right?
I don't see anybody raising their hand. I don't know who's moderating with us tonight.
Okay.
Hi, Tom. It's Kelsey.
Hey,
There's
Kelsey.
nobody. Hi, there's nobody there for public comment.
Got
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Tom, hand it over to you then.
Yeah, just the first order of business. It's going to be short, but just to notify the membership here that Mark McLean, the town engineer that you're accustomed to seeing on the screen, resigned 2 weeks ago and took a job with Mass DOT. And so we are actively recruiting a replacement and offloading, his responsibilities and the things that he was working on with staff that are staying with us, myself included, Paul Paccioli, Jane, and Jared as well. So I'm encouraged. We have one applicant that I've worked with in the past. Actually, I hired him in a previous community. So if that plays out, it would be a very good recruit. So I will keep the commission posted.
Okay. Darren, any questions on that? Move on.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I got interrupted for a slight part of it, but I got the gist of what you said. So
Okay.
no questions.
Very good. Okay, Tom, keep going. Enabling Act.
Sure. So I know, some time ago, it was asked of us, what authority the commission had relative to, the enabling legislation that formed the commission, as well as the impact that some of the Mass DEP regulations and Mass General Law had on the commission's jurisdiction relative to having the authority to accept new connections and also issue and authorize additional flows from existing connections and also for those that are newly connected. So, Mike, you would put together a comprehensive email. It was probably about 6 weeks ago, and you kindly provided backup material and a very pointed email that outlined what we were interested in finding out. So through the town manager's office, I had forwarded that to KP Law for their review and offer an opinion. And I sent out earlier this afternoon. It was just received by me early afternoon. And so I'm not sure if anybody's had an opportunity to look at that, to review it. But my opinion, my review of it and my take on this, it's a favorable opinion, meaning that this commission does indeed have the jurisdiction and the authority to approve new connections, approve additional flow, and that would not require input from either Mass DEP or the health department.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's how I read it too. When I did read a quick paragraph of it, Tom. So yeah, that's how I interpreted what he said as well. So perfect. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And we've run into some situations where I think it was the EPA or the DEP was questioning whether Tom had the authority to, set up certain documents. And so the lawyer added a line in here toward the end saying that Tom is it executive director, Tom?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was a good addition that Tom added, just gives us a little more in case we need to verify that Tom's in charge on this end.
Yeah, and it was really a matter of we have to register with the state, and the feds in order for us to log in and populate reports on a monthly basis. So it was another reason that we needed to assure the state and the feds that as DPW director, that I had the allowance to submit these figures. So that was promising as well.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Being that this also came from a comment from the public, should we add this to one of the things we want to eventually get on our website?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, it's nicely written. It's on, what town council letterhead. It's a formal document. So it does have the layout and format that would make it worthy of a website posting. Sure.
Right.
Mike,
And I don't,
Mike, would you like to send this to Annette Lewis since she contacted you and just so
Yeah.
she knows?
yeah, I will do that. That's a great idea. I don't have the rules and regulations. Is the of our commission is that the term is the term executive director used in our rules and regulations? Do you remember?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And then we actually have language in there that designates the DPW director
Yeah.
as the executive director for the commission.
That's what so this ties it all up because we recognize that it was not a well-defined, and we tried to tighten that up, and this brings it full circle. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Those rules and regs, we have yet to actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jane, we've yet to formally vote that. I think it was at one of Paul's last visits back in December. I think he had put that, forth, and we had kicked it around, made a handful of edits based upon, the members' input. And we have a document that I believe is ready for vote. We just have to get that on an agenda likely in May, and we'll formalize and get those regulations voted upon.
That'd be great.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. I'm making some notes here to myself.
I'm going to stop sharing the agenda. So if it's okay with Mike, if we introduce Matt Abrahams.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Matt, can you hear us? Do you want to liven your video?
Yep.
There we are. Yeah, so as a bit of introductions, on your screen is Matt Abrahams. He is one of the members of the Abrahams group. His father, Mark, had founded the company, and Matt has nicely fit right in. The Abrahams Group is a firm that provides municipal finance modeling. I've worked with both Mark and Matt probably 15 years or so in 3 different communities. So when Paul was parting ways, and myself and the finance director, Brian Kevany, were considering, who we would get to fill this role for us, the Abrahams Group, both Mark and Matt were a solid fit, and pleased to have them, supporting us. So what we did in knowing that really the first task financially, long-term planning that we have, is to put together a financial model for the wastewater program. And we would utilize that over the course of this meeting, May and June, to establish FY24 rates, wastewater rates.
Mhm.
So what Matt has done, in working very closely with Jane over the last 2-3 weeks, has been to take a little bit of what Paul had used and developed in years past, taken the figures and all of the data that Jane maintains, and populated and built a financial model. It'll look a little different than what Paul had done, but in essence, it really provides the same information. Matt will go through it. It's relatively interactive, whereby we can change figures. You'll see it's a workbook that's got many, many tabs. And but you'll be able to, over the course of this meeting, the one we have in May, and then in June again, we'll have the ability to interact with Matt and make suggestions, recommendations, questions, and he'll either on screen tonight or in the course of the next two meetings be able to provide updates so that hopefully by June the commission will be satisfied with what they see and be able to make a good judgment on setting next year's rates.
And everything for that your analysis, and welcome board, by the way. But everything you did from is using the existing, we'll call it rate structure that we have the baseline rate, we have a tier rate. You're not proposing a new model as to like what we could do a year plus from now if we redid our systems, right? It's everything is based upon our current confinements, right?
Are you referring to the possibility of having a different rate structure, a different tier structure?
Yeah, because we talked about that in past years, but we were handcuffed at that time, I'll call it, because we realized we would have to change the system from an invoicing and a billing and all those type of things, and we wouldn't get that done in time. So is everything you're proposing, just so as we think about as you go through it, using the existing structure? Or is there a proposal of new structures as well? Because I know we talked about that.
So the word proposal, I'm not necessarily proposing anything this evening. This is more, I'm looking at this as a work in progress. So
okay.
We have something we can show you tonight as what I would call a preliminary rate plan. I wouldn't call it a proposal quite yet, but hopefully over the next few weeks, we can get comfortable enough to call it a proposal. But to answer your question, as of now, the work we've done so far is focused on the current rate structure.
Okay.
And what I'm going to show you tonight is based on the current rate structure with no changes to it besides just increasing rates.
Yeah, pulling the two levers you got.
Right. So, but that doesn't mean we can't look at those things. We just haven't yet. And the work that we've been doing over the past few weeks is just getting comfortable with what we think rates need to be over the next several years. Mm-hmm. And as already mentioned by Tom, Jane and I have been working closely on this, and this has already been fine-tuned a whole lot from where we started just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. This will be great. I mean, let's see what you got.
But just so this can go in any direction you want, and then there's the question of whether we have the time and the capacity to satisfy those things you're talking about. But as now, this is what we have, and then we can talk about where we are going or where we would like to. And then I just had a question for the group, because as Tom was talking there with his introductory comments, this kind of popped in my head. So when we do these types of analyses, we always look out years into the future. And even though usually when boards, the decision makers are setting rates for a given fiscal year, it's usually just setting rates for one fiscal year at a time. But we like to present multiple years, so you have a sense of. So the boards have a sense of when they approve or when they recommend a rate, they are doing so with other years in mind as well. Kind of a big picture look, but you're only authorizing or only voting on 1 year. In the past, has this group been looking at multiple years or just 1 year at a time?
We pretty much look at 1 year to set the rate, but we have done long-range financial plans, we've called them, and looked into the future a few years, but not incorporated like you have done the actual, how the rate will flow through for many years.
Okay.
So your model includes many years, and we've pretty much focused on the next year.
With Paul, though, did focus on what we perceived as costs in future years, but we only did the rate for the upcoming year as far as my only year on this, right? I've only been a year here, so
that's correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right, good to know. Thank you. So I've been working closely with Jane and Tom. We've already kind of covered that. Jane's seen this workbook that presumably I'll be putting on the screen momentarily. She's seen that just multiple times. She's reviewed it multiple times. I don't want to say she's gotten comfortable with it, but she's gotten more comfortable with it over time. So she knows it pretty well. I think Tom knows it pretty well too, especially from working with us in the past. And we've already kind of walked through the points that I hope to bring up this evening. So with someone's permission, I'm planning on putting this on the screen. I just wanted to make sure that was okay with everyone first. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to ask one question to box this in. So we're working towards holding a rate hearing at the next meeting. Is that correct? Or is it June?
Usually, I was gonna say it was June last year.
June. And it's
Yep.
just one hearing where the goal is to finalize them at that June meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I think in years past, and when we do something similar on the water side, is that we begin the process in April. Through the course of those April and May meetings, there's a fair amount of interaction, and by June, Matt will have provided a model that everybody's familiar with, comfortable with, and provides the information that you'll be prepared in June to make, a good decision for the following fiscal year.
Tom, you froze. You froze, Tom.
No, I heard him all the way through.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was good on my side.
Okay.
All right, can you see this on the screen?
See it?
All right, so this tab might look familiar to you, might. This
Balls.
is my understanding of how the rates were set last year, meaning, well, last year at this time for the current fiscal year, which is FY20. And I'll just quickly walk you through it. And by no means, I am not an expert on your rate structure. I've done a lot of number crunching here for you, but if you asked me to explain your rate structure, I would do a poor job of it. So just understand that going in. So if you have specific questions on what's here regarding your rate structure or the design flow, things like that, there's probably someone on this call who can answer that question. But any of the dollars we can talk about for sure. I'm more comfortable with that. So just to kind of walk you through my understanding of what we're looking at here. When you were setting rates for FY23, you had your existing over here, including what the projected usage was, or maybe for that year it was an actual usage at that point, but it says projected. And then you had your projected usage for what was thought to happen for FY23, which is the current fiscal year. But when this was being looked at, that was the future. That was the upcoming year. And there was clearly some thought that went into these numbers, the projected usage. There were some calculations that are down here that kind of contributed to that. But ultimately, what was going on here was what you were trying to target a certain rate of revenue, meaning you had a budget, you had a dollar amount that you had rates that you wanted to cover, that you wanted rates to cover, and you were trying to set the rates in such a way that you would bring in that amount of money. So the rates got set using the adjustments over here. The rates got set, and it ultimately said, okay, we think that $446,000-ish will be billed in FY23. And there was a minor adjustment that took place on that, as called non-payment, or I like to refer to it as a collections rate, what's actually collected versus what's not collected, to adjust that from here to here. So that's how you got to the 435 number, and you were aiming to get that number, and you're above that. So at that point, someone was happy and said, okay, this is what we're going with. So let's keep in mind just for a second that 435,500 number was what the target was, or what was thought to happen in terms of money coming in the door from your billing.
Yep.
Jane and I spent some time recently getting comfortable with what we think is actually going to happen in FY23. So now fast forward 9 to 10 months later, maybe even 12 months later, whenever this happened last year, we know a little bit more now than we did then about what 23 is looking like. So let's take a look at what 23 looks like and see if we can come up with what we think is an accurate projection or a good estimate for where 23 is going to end up. That's represented in this box right here, and I'll walk you through it. So again, this is something that Jane and I worked on very recently. We were able to look at year-to-date user charges. So you can go into the financial system, you can say, all right, I want to know what's in our account for money in the door already for user charges in FY23. 251,000. And this was through the end of February. Pretty recent. Then there's a billing that takes place right around now. I think Jane had this number available a week or two ago. This is
Just
your
about a week ago, we just finished the Q3 billing.
Okay, thank you. This is, and you said Q3 billing. Does that mean there's one more billing that's going out, Jane?
Yes, but the Q4 will show up in the next fiscal year.
Okay, Makes sense. All right.
If I could just say, sorry, excuse me for a second. What happened this quarter is with the billing, we realized that occupancy at Alta, well, basically Alta, there were two things in order for Alta to receive their consideration fee. That is the 5,000 fee they receive quarterly or 20,000 a year. That's something, does everybody recall what that was? Or do you want me to explain some more? So
No,
for them building their leaching field, we said we would give them a $20,000 credit each year. So when looking back at the documents, we found out that in quarter two, once they had received all their occupancy permits, we not bound, but we were supposed to give them a $5,000 credit. So what happened is our billing was much higher and we deducted 5,000 for last quarter and 5,000 for this quarter. And that's how the rate is only, the recent billing is only 97,000.
So if you hadn't done that, it would be 107,000 change?
Correct.
Okay. So, okay, good. Thanks for pointing that out. So this would have been 107 if that hadn't been taken out, but now it's down to 97. So that's the number we're factoring in, but as we already kind of covered, we're not expecting full collections on that, at least not initially. So what are we going to take on that? Now, instead of taking the other tab had 97.5%, we've done some recent digging on this, and we think the collections rate is now more along the lines of 90%. That's what we're currently using at the moment. I will show you how we got to that in 1 second. So if you take 90% of the 97, you're at 88 of that dollar amount. You add the two together, you're at this 339 number right here. So this is our current projection for where we think FY23 will end up for user charges revenue. And that is compared to this number right here, which was the number that was on the previous tab I just showed you a moment ago. And the difference is this number right here. 96.
And the big driver is obviously our flow is way off from what we used in the model.
That is a big driver from what we expected. We expected 100% revenue, them being at 100% occupancy and the revenue to go along with it.
Yeah.
And they're not there at this point.
Where are they now? What's the latest? Do you know?
46%
Anyone?
right now.
41. Yep. But we also said that our cost, there was a variable cost to Alta. If they did get up to 100%, there was a cost there. So our cost should be less.
Which is what
due
we're
to that.
seeing on the other, yes, when we
Right.
look at the FY23 forecast.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so right there is something that's, I would say it's just a little bit eye-opening because you're expecting money to come in, you're not getting it. The rate was set a certain way based on that. It's not coming in. So let's just kind of keep that in the back of our minds as we move forward. To talk quickly about the 90%, here's how we did it. And this is something, and this is a to-do on Jane's plate, just so you're aware. Hopefully we get an answer on this shortly, but we went through recent commitment data. So this box is 21, this box is 22, this box is 23 going downward. You have your totals on this line. And then we have a few extra numbers in here. So try not to get bogged down the numbers, but compare that line to this line right here, which is money that was actually in the door according to Munis. And we compare these two numbers together for 21 to get at the actual collection rate right here. You compare those numbers, and if you come over here, I think it's the same calculation. Yeah. So if you compare actual money through the door to what was billed, these are the rates that we're seeing, and these are a little bit surprising.
How does that compare to the water bills? Is that an unusually low for this municipal billing? This means 12% of the people aren't paying their bills, or 11?
That's a suggestion. Not necessarily 12% of the people, but 12% of the dollars is not coming through the door.
I mean, I think a pretty standard collection rate that I've seen is about 95%. So I think that that's pretty standard. So this is, below that.
Does this take into account the $10,000 that is the credit for Alta?
Well, when I look back at the FY23 schedule that Matt had already showed you, we didn't take into account the 10,000 because I guess we just didn't do it when we did.
Yeah, and I was going to say the first two columns here, the ones you have highlighted, are pre-Alta, right?
Yes,
So these are collection rates even prior to Alta.
yes, correct, because the June revenue would have gone in the next year. So yes, pre-Alta.
Yeah, and to kind of harp on what Tom said, my experience is similar to what Tom just mentioned. Usually you're in the mid 90s,
95.
especially for a community like Wayland. I did not expect to see it this low. So then we also looked at the liens number to see if that could kind of get us to the 100% or at least near it, and it doesn't. Still doesn't get you that much further. So this is the liens number for 2021. If you add that to here, you're still only at 253,000, which is this number, and you're still pretty far off. So when I said that, it's a to-do for Gene, we're going to see if we can do a little digging on this to see if we can understand why these numbers aren't quite adding up. And if something's discovered, then maybe we'll adjust the collections rate at that point. But until then, we're probably going to carry this lower number just to be a little bit more conservative on our projections.
Well, the one is an aside. I'm interested in knowing what parties are
not paying.
paying, especially if it's any party that is asking for more flow.
I agree.
I'm going to bring up a motion that no one who is not up to date with their bills gets more flow. I don't know how we do that, but
I can do that.
yeah.
We have a
But,
set list that we send to Treasury and the assessors, and I can just double check the names and see what, who's asking for what.
But I mean, this is a little side thing, but I know that yeah, you guys are, authorized to make some connections or changes. I would say I would not support any change for any user
Not
that's
current.
not caught current with their bills.
I'll check it.
I agree, Mike.
And I'd be curious if it's any of the parties that are giving us looking for why can't I have a lot more flow? Because the town is getting pressure to increase flow, and why are we restricting it? I want to make sure those parties are paying their bills.
Are you talking just the lien people, or I can do
The
a
10% of the people the 10% of the flows that aren't being paid in a timely manner. Yes. I'd be interested in seeing who the 10% are, the 10% of the where that's coming from.
Yep. Okay.
Before we go forward, can you go back to Paul's original the first page you started with our assumption on the flow? But that assumption, that 51,000 we have in the base charge, row 5, on fiscal year 2023, the 51,636 at 667. That though, Alta is their design flow, and that's what that's based on. So is it that we're not getting it on the other rate because we charge for that? Are we not charging Alta? We're only charging Alta at the 50% occupancy, not 100% of this.
Right.
Because that was the assumption, was that it was the design flow and that Alta would come online and we would have, it's full Alta and you have to pay that design flow at the base rate, right?
That's what this model assumes.
Right. So is that not what we did?
You'll notice here, it's not the allocated design flow, it's the connected design flow is the number that's used up there.
Right.
So that's a little more conservative, which is a good way.
Right. So I'm just surprised we're that far
So are
off.
we billing Alta correctly? If we're going to give them the $5,000 credit, shouldn't their design flow be based on their full flow?
They are getting charged for their full flow.
Okay.
That's why when you look at the 24 model, we pulled out this whole section here in column M&N with half Alta. That was just to show you guys what would happen to the revenue if we had half Alta for the billing. And that's pretty much true. If you think about it, we definitely didn't bring in the revenue we thought we would in 23, so far in 23, because we haven't been billing usage, but we have been billing at full design flow full design flow.
So just to make it clear, the base charge is based on the design flow.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's design flow times the $5.26. So their bill is like, the base charge is like 29,000 something, less the 5 brings it down to 24.
Okay.
Plus use.
Yeah, where I'm struggling is that, let's go on. I want to see your full thing, but is that 51,636? How close are we to that? Because if we are billing out 667 at a 90%, that would be the 344 times 90%. Plus then we should have our actual flow charges on top of that. So it's just interesting. We're not even what you're predicting right now, Matt, is we're not even getting to the 344.
Yeah, I think that's where you're going.
That's part of the problem.
I'm
If you
sorry.
look
So
on
what,
the
so what,
FY20
what is, yeah, where's that off? Because that's,
on the FY24 tab off to the right, I think it says 6,000 that we are, if Matt wouldn't mind popping over to the FY town rate calcs FY24 tab. For Q3, they only had water use of, this is in 100 cubic feet, 6,300 cubic feet.
But
So-
is water use even, is that even tackling Darren's question though? The use versus,
because mine's not use. I'm
On
at
the
the base. I'm
It
on the
goes-
base flow.
Right.
Not flow, base design. God,
Right.
there.
This goes to, how many gallons per day have we signed up? It's 100. That's where we've been talking on capacity. We are,
Alter is 35,000.
no, in total, the whole
Oh,
system.
I have the whole privilege. Oh, that would be that 114, 181.
And that's more than what this model is based on. So I think we got something going on here. Look at town rate calc for fiscal year 24. I have it over my other screen. Can you click on? Well, yeah, oh yeah, you're looking at the same thing. I'm sorry. So that
Well,
number,
I don't necessarily think we need to move to the 24 tab quite yet
Yeah.
because
I hear you. I was looking at the
we're
wrong.
currently
It's the
focused
same-
on the billings that are taking place in 23.
Yeah,
and
no,
seeing-
I'm just focusing on that 114,180 gallons per day. We've
Right.
allocated that much. That's,
But if we go to the FY24 tab, that number's changed a little bit.
yeah,
for
we're done with
me.
that. I'm gonna move off that.
Okay, fine.
I'm with Darren. Why aren't we forecasting collecting the full 344,000? Because we have subscribed more than 105,833 gallons per day. It might
Yeah,
be
so-
the timing of it, Darren.
So in other words,
Yeah.
it sounds to me, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is what you call the connected design flow,
Yes.
assuming Alta was full.
No. Nope. Not assuming anything. They're in.
That risk is on Alta, whether how full they get, they have
That's
to
a
pay
base
the
charge.
design for the overall base.
Right. Okay. Fine. But that's included in there. That's included in that number.
That includes Alter at 100%.
Right. Okay. So, and you were authorized to bill that.
Correct.
Yes?
But what
On the
happened
base.
is Q1, they had such a low amount of actual flow that we
never
didn't
billed
charge
it.
a base charge.
That's what it
Because they
was.
only had like a very small percent of people in the building.
Okay.
That's
we
right.
didn't-
That's right, Jane. Right. We
Q1, there
didn't
was,
start.
they didn't get charged that 29,000.
And then
Right.
we're talking municipal fiscal year, not calendar, because
Right.
Yes,
so there's two
June.
quarters where they weren't contributing where we thought.
Right. So two
Not one.
quarters worth of their base, we did not collect. So therefore, that is why the 344 did
Yeah.
not come true. Right.
Okay.
Did not realize. Okay.
That answer is, yeah.
That because
Thank
I was struggling with the
Yeah.
344 is what we were banking on. We'll call that, like, again, base, right? Like you said, Jane, you were big on this, right? That the base is kind of like, hey, how you pay
It's
for base
important.
operations, and everything else is your variable. So we made sure that the 344 was there, right? So that's all. It's interesting that we're not even getting to that. That's the concerning part.
Well,
And
we
No.
started
there's
late.
48,000
We-
right
we-
there that we didn't get from
We
Alter.
lost a quarter. That's
Right.
why.
We lost quarter.
Okay.
Right. That's what's causing it. Okay.
Did you
Thank
lose
you.
a quarter? Did you lose a quarter or a half?
Or two.
'Cause-
I believe
Well-
Q4, we didn't charge them, and Q1, we didn't charge them.
But
Yeah,
but
we
the
lost two.
model assumed a little of that.
The Q4 carried over into FY23, correct? So we're actually 2 quarters, we missed out on revenue from Alter. We didn't really expect it in Q4 from FY22 because we thought 50% occupancy, but
Okay. So let's go back. Let's keep going forward, Matt. I just wanted to get my head straight on why are we not realizing that. So now
Yeah,
I
it
now I
seems-
understand why.
It seems like we figured it out. So that was definitely a conversation well worth having there. Okay, well, that makes sense to me. It seems like it makes sense to everyone else too. So now we know. But it doesn't change the fact that your 23
No.
revenues are going to come in a little bit lower than you originally.
No, it doesn't change the
calculated.
fact. Deal 3 out. I get it. I just wanted to understand why, right?
All right, so back to here. We're pretty much done with this tab, but I just wanted to show you that that's how we came up with the 90%. was we took the 21 rate, we calculated the 22 rate, and we also did a quick calc for 23 year to date, which was a little bit higher. Maybe that's the alt impact, I don't know. And we averaged the 3 to get to the 90%. So until we see some revelation related to why the money in doesn't quite equal the money that was billed, we'll leave it at this for now, just to be conservative. But if Jane discovers something while she looks into this, we can make an adjustment later on. All right, so then we're going to move to the 24 tab. So Jane spent some time, I think this was last week, basically updating this tab, which was the one you just saw a moment ago for how 23 was set, to look at what she thinks or what is expected for the 24 flows and what's going to be charged for 24. And I think some adjustments were made. So Jane, if you don't mind, I'll have you speak to this because I'll butcher this if I try to do.
Sure. I'm just trying to, is the 104,623 the same number as on the FY23? Because I think we should have updated that number. I'm just trying to.
It's close, but it's not the same. It's different by, it's a little bit lower by about 1,200. This number is about 1,200.
Oh, I know why it is. Okay. So what we did on this chart was the prior model gave us the option of allowing Alta to be at different percent rates. So what we've done here, you'll see in cell 019, the yellow block, it says 75%. So if Matt, you could go down a little bit to where we have water usage in that section over there and over a little bit move to the left so we can see that chart. So what I did was I knew total from billing. We knew these were the numbers from the billings, quarter 1, 2, and 3. This is how much water usage we had. And you can see it's ramping up because we have an increase with Alta in there, correct? And then I knew what the Alta water use was from our billings. And you can see in quarter 3, we only billed at 6,003. I'm trying to check if this is gallons per day or that is gallons per day, yes. And so then it leaves us with the current users. So what I did was in the chart, just a little bit down below, Alta percent occupied, that's like lines 35, 36. These are the units that they have right now in quarter 1, 20, then 55, 94. And I said, okay, from quarter 2 to quarter 3, it increased 1.72 times. So I said, okay, maybe in quarter 4, they'll get up to 1.5 times. So that would bring them to 141 units. And then I did the same in quarter 1 of the next year. So Tom and I took a look at it and we're having a hard time coming to grips that Alta is going to grow to that amount of occupancy. So we put a number in there as 75%. We have heard from Alta that their predictions are as of June 30th, which is will be quarter 4, they think they'll be 65% occupied. By the first quarter of 24, they think they'll be at 85% and then 95% by December, and then they'll hold at 95%. They'd like to be at 95%, but we're not sure. So this is a question for the board. What percentage do you think in FY24 will Alta be at? They're getting people in slower than they expected, and we want to be conservative as to, we don't want to estimate the revenue and have it not come in.
I'd say 75 is on the high side. I would go very conservative on this, right? At that 65, like you said, they're at 65, but I would not go any higher than 75.
Yeah, because right now they're at 43%.
Right.
With 94 units.
Which I like the 65 that I heard at one point where they want to be at 65. Well, let's just assume that's where they're at. And now again, we should be charging for that base.
We are charging for full base at this point.
So it's really going to be the flow part that we should see this, that 75, if you change it to 85, whatever, it should only be on the flow part.
Correct. That's what you'll see. That's
Okay.
what will affect the numbers over on the other side, for our modeling.
So what did they think they'd be at fourth quarter of
Fourth quarter, they said they'll be at 65%.
65 is what he said. Yeah.
So Don, you're suggesting we keep 65 through all of we're talking
Just to be conservative on our
through
first
into
pass here.
24 though. Now let's look at.
I understand. Just being a most conservative view,
Yep.
start there and
Yep.
then start getting more optimistic.
I mean, that's a lot of time for them,
I agree.
you know, not to get more people in, but it's what is that number is the big question.
Obviously, we were too optimistic, we'll say,
Yeah.
but on what we did last time. So
Well,
let's
that's what
be-
they told us, you know,
Yeah.
we'll
I got
need it.
I
But
got
then
it.
we had the whole COVID and we couldn't get supplies and, you know.
Yeah,
So let's keep this discussion going. So we're looking at 24 though, right? This is what
Yep.
we're talking about.
FY24, what would you like to use as a percentage or increased percentage or?
Well, I think and Darren, I don't want to speak for you, but I think he's saying that we think they'll get up to 65. We don't know that they'll go beyond 65%, although it's likely that they will. But let's play it safe and stick with the 65 estimate, even though once you get into 24, it's likely to go higher, but we're covered in case they don't occupy any further.
that's my opinion. Let's
Yeah,
take this
let's-
first pass at
Yeah,
65.
let's see where that, because I think the flow, I don't follow the flows that I saw before seem low, but
Right.
Which flows are you referring to?
well, we'll get to that. Like we're already seeing right now routinely over 20,000 gallons per day when Alta's not at, when they weren't even at 40%. So we can get back to that.
So at Q3, they were at 43% and the flow's only 6,000.
I
gallons
understand,
per day.
but the total, we don't have a report yet, I don't believe. And we are already routinely seeing over 20,000
Well, we're seeing 20,000 for the,
total, right?
well, the
Totally.
total for Q3 was 25,747,
All users.
all users.
Right. If I remember, Mike, we saw like an increase of
Yeah.
like 5, right? And when they said that they were at 25%, we said that's that. And it was tracking on our estimate on what we thought the flow would be once
Okay.
their occupancy reached each percentage. So that was tracking to what we modeled. They just didn't get to the percentage that we thought.
Yeah.
All right. So if we set that to 65, 18. I don't know if that's gonna screw you up here on what you're about to present, but
That's fine. We can go back to 65 and I can adjust it later.
okay. Okay.
I saw the numbers change on the left, right? It looks like it's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, but my other tab is going to be off by a little bit, but that's
Okay.
fine. We can,
All right.
we can.
We'll deal with that. So now if you go back up now, really quick, I guess, well, go ahead. You describe it, clear the screen. I want you to.
So that was a big question, is what you guys wanted to use there, and then
I think I see that as a starting point. I personally think that's a little overly conservative, but let's see where we end up.
Mhm.
Because I was concerned by what I saw on that first page. Extremely concerned.
Okay. So we can.
So that's all. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, sure, no problem. All right, so with the 65, so I'll go back to 75 just for a second. With 75, the total projected revenue, and this includes the 20,000 being taken out that Jane mentioned earlier.
That
Yeah.
was in addition to this model.
That's the
Correct.
Alta $5,000 you talked about each quarter. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I see it on the left. Okay.
Yep, so with the 75, your projected billings, we'll call it billings, 411,000. That 9.8 non-payment number reflects the 90% that we showed you on the other tab. That can be adjusted, but again, we're using it for now to be conservative. So that gets you an estimate of 371,000 for money in the door. If you change this to 65%, which it seems like we may end up there, now you're at
Yep.
revenue of about 367,000 in the door. Now, keep in mind, going back to the prior year, now we understand why now, but the projection at that point was 435,000, I think, with revenue in the door. So even this year, you're looking at a much lower amount than what was used for the rate setting last year.
Right. Because of that -20 is the big one, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. The -20.
That was not in our model at all, that -20, right? That negative. So,
Correct.
right.
Yep.
So, but that 51, because it sounds like, again, I'm still struggling. We're showing fiscal year 2023 at 51,636, even though that is not true because we did not bill 1 or 2 quarters, and I still don't know what that was. So that number was actually less, right? As we look at that left hand, but you feel confident that going forward we have Alta. So that 51,046, there's no anything in F5 that may be a lower number. Like
I think that yeah, I don't understand why that would be lower. It should be higher
Right.
because we've taken on other non-Alta subscribe, at least 2,000 gallons already.
right. That's where I was going. I'm like, is that like, should be higher or is it? Yeah.
I think it should be higher.
Yeah, so
Because
we
the
talked
same
about,
number is there. I think we
know it's higher.
We just need to adjust
That
this
is
model.
that
to
is a
include-
fact. That number should be the 1/4, whatever we've gallon per days that we've subscribed right now. That's a fact. That's no variable. It's higher than 114. It's higher than 105.
Right.
So that is actually the number that we have right now it's 114,913. So I think
yeah, right here.
it just got changed when we were
No,
doing some more.
I was on the
We got
20
it. Okay.
I was on the 23 tab just for a second to show you that the connected design flow was higher on the
Good.
23
Okay. That's
tab.
what it should be.
That's what it should
104.
be.
That's correct. Good.
And we
114 and 1046. Yep. Good. I'm glad. Phew.
Okay, no, because Jane, I think the point is though that this number is lower than what it was for the 23 calculation.
We
Does
know
make
that.
sense?
There's reasons for that.
There is, okay, so that makes sense to you guys. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But
All right.
we should be using 114,913, and that's conservative because I think will be at least 8,000 gallons higher than that. But that's why I think it's conservative. So I believe I believe F5 should be changed to the full 56,066.
Right.
Okay.
But again, from a conservative, right? If we were doing conservative, we're conservative at 65. And what we're saying is if we continue going forward here for just this first pass, the 51,046, we also think is conservative.
No,
And-
it's false. We have obligations. We have people under contract to pay 114,913 right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
We have people that have reserved design flow and they're not connected. So by including them, we're charging a base charge for them, but we're not.
Right, that's a
charging
different discussion. That's the flow discussion.
right. So again, I see what you're saying, Mike. I mean, if it is that we have connected or we can charge the base and it's 56 and it should be 56.
And then we can continue where Jane was going on the actual flow numbers if they're tied to that number.
Right.
I think what Paul did was he said, let's be conservative and use the.
But I disagree totally with that. We're being overly conservative. The fact is people have signed contracts to pay us at 104,913. The way people are approaching us, I think that 8,000 gallons that's out there, plus the privilege fees we're going to get from it, are going to be gone within a quarter. So it's already very conservative.
With using the 56, because again, I just want to make sure I'm clear. The 56 is signed contracts already committed. The 8 you're talking about will be in addition to that 56 as that goes up forward.
I don't see that happening anytime soon, the 8,000, unless somebody comes along. I mean, there's
Right, so-
nothing in the pipeline right now for the extra 8.
But if we are definitely at 114,913, people sign contracts, that's it.
Yep.
Boom, then it should be 56,066 there. Because that should be billed. We should
It
be
is being
billing for
billed,
that
yep,
56,066, right?
Yep, it is being billed.
Okay, so then why would that not be the,
It was just a conservative way. We used
Okay.
to do it that
Okay.
way, and then we broke it down just to.
Yeah, I
Because
just don't
we're
want
not
to be
getting
too conservative
flow for
because I'm
those.
looking at that 65%, but we'll stay there. But I
Yeah.
don't want to.
okay, so I mean, but
Yeah.
again, let's go forward with how you got it, because I don't want to script your sheets, but now we know the 65 is
No.
conservative and the 51 is conservative, so
Yeah,
we
but
can
I
play
want,
with this as we go.
right, but I also want to accurately reflect in this what we think is truly going to happen. If there's a known or something that is very
agree.
highly likely to happen, it's okay if we include that. So
Well,
yes,
that's what we're saying. What's I mean, 56 is gonna happen. That's
It's done.
we're gonna
It's already
build
under
for it.
contract.
Then we should include it, as long as
All right.
as long as it's gonna be, so let's talk about that next billing, Jane, right? You talked about Q4, that's gonna be the money coming in at the start of the next fiscal year. Do you anticipate it being billed at this level?
Yes,
Okay, so
And
then I
that's what
think
should
we
be
should
there.
include it. So we should
Yes.
include it.
Let's make that number 56066.
All right.
And
so
then
if
what,
we
and
make
what
it-
Mike's saying is we have another 8,000 that, again,
Right.
Jane, who knows when it will
Which-
come?
which
Like
would-
you said, it may not come as fast, but we know that might even increase more, but we are
we can't use
absolutely
it
under
until we know.
Yeah, until we know. I agree.
Okay, so just to kind of talk a little bit higher level about what this means overall in the model, once you make that change, you can keep an eye on this number. So that's
Yep.
about 340,000. You make that change,
30 grand, right?
Right.
5,000
Right.
times 6, something, yeah.
30 grand, 30 grand.
Right.
So in the way that my model works, and I will show you this momentarily, I'm starting with your current projected revenue, which in this case will be 24 that we're looking at right here. And I'm carrying that forward in my baseline. So
Yep.
basically that's saying, it's not reality, but I'm saying you're not going to increase rates at all just to show you what the baseline looks like. That number is carried forward every year. So if you are adding $30,000, or is it 40,000, Karen? 40, 30?
36, whatever. It was 5,000 times 6.67, so 33,000.
33,000. Yeah. If you're adding 33,000 and you're doing that every year, that's that much less money that you would need to recover from additional
Yep.
rates. So,
Yep.
And we're
Yep.
that's a conservative number because I believe if not next year, the year after, we'll have at least 8,000, if not more, out there.
But that's,
And Matt, and that's
Yeah,
what we were banking on that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that one quarter, or whether it was 2 quarters not coming in, that was really the thought process around how we were changing, not the model, but the rate, increasing the rate on the variable, but try to keep the base lower. It was our goal, right? And that additional flow, that additional design was enabling us to be able to do that. So now we're getting pressure tested on that, but that was the concept. Of course,
Okay.
we didn't know about the -20 or, yeah, okay. And the 90%. Okay. So what does 75% do really quick? If you just change that one variable, 7, 18, whatever. Just
so
change that to 75.
the total revenue based on our collections rate,
397.
we know might change. 397. Not a huge difference. 3,000,
Okay.
3,500, something like that.
Yeah, four, okay, $4,000. All right.
Well,
So 65 versus 75 is $4,000. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take notes for these 2 changes to make sure that I capture them in the next version of the workbook. I want to show you what I had, knowing that it's going to change based on this discussion.
Yep.
And I can try and change it while we're meeting tonight, but I also don't want to keep you guys longer than we have to. So,
No. I do
Um,
have, before we move, yeah, take your notes, then I have some more questions on what we're looking at.
okay.
Oh, so there's one more thing I need to tell you guys. In cell J30, you see the little asterisk there? Alta Design Flow, we were connected by, Alta is very worried about their bills. They don't have enough people to cover what they're being charged. We've had many conversations with them. And what we've determined is when they made the design flow, created the design flow of 35,840, it was based on pre-construction, what they thought the bedrooms were going to be. And so now that they know exactly what they are, the design flow has been lowered by 1,210 gallons. So this model also includes the lower amount. So it's now they're down to 34,630.
Well, but that doesn't change. Let's talk
It
about
lowers
that
the
though.
amount of design flow that's up there.
Well,
And
how
that-
can that be then? We don't have a process for giving back design flow.
That's the difference between those 2 numbers.
Oh, that's interesting because they paid a privilege fee for the 35,840.
Right, how do we do that? We don't-
They have asked us to lower it.
But so would
with no
everyone. I don't
comment.
know, don't we have to, we don't have a process
Yeah, we've
for that.
talked about this in the past.
Yeah. I don't know whether we can do that.
But from
Are you
model,
saying-
even if it happened, you're really saying instead of 56, it's now 55, whatever that comes to, right? We're taking off 1,000.
We've
be-
lowered the amount.
No, this has the lowered amount.
Oh, it already has it.
already.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well then,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need to Jane, I don't know whether we can do that. We don't have, then everyone will, why don't we give everyone saying, look at my flow, I'm not doing it.
Well, we didn't return the
Design.
privilege fee. So we did set the design flow earlier with Paul and the engineers and everything, but they're not asking for the privilege fee back, and
I
Well,
think
good, 'cause
what
they
makes
can't get
this, what makes this, I think what makes this unique is that, during the design phase, we had calculated what the design flow was going to be based upon the bedroom layout of the 218 units. When they actually built them, it was different, so in knowing that now, it would be like if a salon said to us and they were applying for a connection and they said, we're going to have 5 chairs, and Jane calculates what that design flow should be with 5. And they say, yeah, we thought we were going to have 5. It's now 4. So it's not as if they're contesting their flows. It was actually a change in what they should have been applying for. So I think that does provide,
Okay.
some uniqueness.
But,
Right,
well, on
to
the
the
flip side,
situation.
that means we have 9,000
Available.
over 9,000
Yeah,
gallons.
Right.
Available
It
Like-
will increase what's available. That's right.
to resell.
right.
This is,
I'll
this
update
is
my
the-
model
this
for
is
that.
the secondary market we were talking about, Darren. It's just
Yeah, I know.
not
I
running
know.
as efficiently as we had hoped.
I'm laughing, Mike. I'm laughing. Oh.
I mean, does that make sense to you, Darren? Are you?
Yeah,
convinced
no,
that-
I know it's our exact conversation we've been having about the secondary,
But,
like you
but
said,
I
the
think
secondary.
that Tom, the framing it is, the as-built were different than the projections.
yes.
It's not like someone saying my 5 toilets don't produce as much water as your model. It's saying I only ended up with 4
Four
toilets,
toilets, right?
so I only should be billed on the flow for 4
Yep.
toilets,
Makes sense.
and I can't put another one in without you knowing anyway. So I could be convinced on that,
I'd agree.
and I think the public could if they're listening to us.
I'd agree.
But that does
Right.
mean we now have over 9,000 gallons available to the public.
Currently, we have 8,058 plus the 1,210. Yep.
There you go.
Okay.
9,002 something, Mike.
268.
There you go.
I'm writing it down.
Just
Write that down.
People ask.
in case you want to put something new in, right, Mike?
So you said to get to the next model part. So
Well, actually, that was my one question. Then my next question on this before we move on, I'm sorry, is shouldn't the tier 1 and tier 2 and 24 at least equal somewhere around 21,000 gallons, which we're seeing now?
yeah, actually, that's a good question, Mike.
That's what threw me off. I knew I saw it somewhere. That's the question I meant to ask earlier.
Yeah, because we're currently billing at
the
25,000.
The difference here is the numbers you're seeing there are in 100 cubic feet. So if you look down below,
Oh, the
I'm not helping you.
25,000
It's
gallons,
the
gallons per day.
20,000 plus the 11,7 gives you to be 31,7. So the chart is in 100 cubic feet, and our gallons are 31,7.
Oh,
I'm not following you guys.
you tried, Jane,
So,
to try
Matt,
to
if
keep
you
us
go
sharp.
over
It's
to-
different units.
If you
Yeah,
go over to cell N and O, yep, you're just about there, line 26, 27.
Yes.
The 20,000 and the 11 comes to 31,700 in gallons, but the 15,467, which is in our model that we're using up above in cell F, we calculate in 100 cubic feet to get our
Right.
rate.
Yes.
Yeah, so this
I
is.
feel
this
like
is
I'm
a-
back in 8th grade science where I understand the principle and
But there
it's
was
a
a
trick
question.
question.
Yeah.
So there was a question that just kind of raised my eyebrow, but I think I know the answer to it. Oh, it's because, okay, so I was looking at these 2 numbers right here, this number and this
Why are we
number.
going with that?
Right, but I think I understand why. It was because this number was what was used last year for the rate setting, and it was based on full Alta. But now we're not assuming full Alta. We're assuming the 65%, so you're at this number. You can
Correct.
also see them down here if you compare these two.
But even that 15,467 is at 31,700 gallons per day, and we're currently billing at what, 25,000? So
We did this quarter, yep.
Yeah, so we're assuming in this base conservative model, whatever we'll call this, right, that we're going to see another 6,000 increase by the time we get to next year.
But that's also, if we go back to here, isn't that this effect right here? The
Yeah.
build up here?
Right.
Right.
So you're currently billing here and you're thinking you're going to be here in just a few months.
Right. Yep. I'm getting it in gallons per day for me versus percent, so, and units. So that's what we're predicting, is that our flow will increase by another 6,000 by end of year, is what this is assuming. Assuming we're 25 plus 631, I'm using rough numbers.
And hopefully based on this occupancy, if that it does end up happening, you get there.
And we've also, though, there's the usage of town center has gone up, and we have added 2,000 gallons of other new
We
connections.
assume the flow is 50% of that, right?
Less,
Correct.
40, I
Less,
think.
yeah, less 40, I think we used, yeah.
So.
Okay.
So we'll circle back, not tonight necessarily, on that 65 to see where we end up.
Okay.
Okay, so you take all that into account, we're at 406.
So I'm just going to do one other thing real quick.
Yeah, make that back to 56.
Well, in the version that I had, it was the lower number. So I'm going to take it back in just a second. But I want you just to focus right here just for a moment. So doing the same calculation that was done last year, in order to satisfy the revenue requirement, which is this number. Actually, I think this number has been adjusted. The number we're using now is just like 2,000 higher, but it's close. In order to get there, you still have to raise rates an additional amount to cover that. So your 1 year look would require some rate increase that's probably 15%, 18%.
And what we were trying to do, Matt, right, is try to keep that base lower and put more of it to the variable, right? And put more of the pressure on the variable is what we wanted.
Okay. But I guess my point is, in order to satisfy this, you're looking at just an across the board increase that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, that's why I want to, that's
Somewhere.
troubling. I don't think we put that newsletter insert out.
So, no, but so just so you talk about the way that I did this, which is a little bit different than the approach here. So the approach here is the 1 year look, right? So if you were trying to get your revenues to completely cover your expenses without using retained earnings, you would be looking at a rate increase across the board. And when I say across the board, meaning the base and all in both tiers increasing at the same clip of over 16% to make that happen. Now, the way that we look at things when we do these is we look multiple years. So by doing that, you're targeting retained earnings over a certain period of time, and therefore you could use some in the short term so that you're mitigating rate increases as long as you're doing some rate increases to make up for that over the longer term. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second.
Can I, really quick, before you get to that, the 468,721, that's an increase of what over prior year? Our projected 468,721 prior year was.
That was the FY24 budget number. But I think now when we budget, the projected FY 2024 is now 470. So we should change the point to that one.
Yeah, but what's the increase? I mean, and then we got that 561, which has the membrane in it, right?
Yes.
Right. So that membrane's screwing us up here a little bit, but
You know what the
membrane was not to be paid for by revenues. That was paid another way. So where's
so then maybe you're looking at
431? That's perfect, Matt. Yep, row 40. So what
And
percent?
another thing I just thought of is, and we'll need to think through this, is FY24 includes 130 to actually install the membrane, and it looks like FY25, did we drop down at all? I don't think so. Where's the operating expense? We'll have the O&M expenses.
Yeah, but this 535, doesn't that include your truck? So that's
Okay.
50? Is that 50,000?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So if you take that out, so you're at 485. So you go from 470 to 485 in your base operating
Right.
from
Where
24.
where do the privilege fees that we collect fall into this? It wasn't on the other table.
Yeah, because that was the other thing we were banking on for CapEx, right? So the
That's
CapEx.
the whole conversation.
Yeah, so we could spend a solid 10 minutes on that if you want.
I know
But, I mean-
I'm more trying to, you're showing a 16%, trying to see what cost increase, but you're also trying to make up for the deficit that's there due to it's not coming in, right? So you
Well,
gotta
also
make
due
up-
to billings being a little bit lower than we thought that the group thought
Right,
they
that's what I
were
meant by
at
the
this
deficit.
time last year.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're almost trying to make up for that now as opposed to
Right.
last year if it was done differently. Yeah. For the 16%, again, that's if you're just doing a 1-year look and you're trying to get your revenues to match.
And,
Yep.
but, and assume, and where is the privilege fees fall in? Because we've taken in already 20,000 this year, I think, right?
We're
No.
at 51,000.
Or
51,000 and it could be zero or it could be $500,000, right?
yeah, so let's talk about that. I want to kind of walk you through the schedule as well, and we can do that as part of the walking through if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Yep.
I also want to be sensitive to your time because I can see us talking about this for another 20 minutes or so. Is that okay if we do that?
I'm good.
Sure.
Or I can do the fast forward version. How about that?
I'm a quick follow. Just trying to
Okay.
get my baseline on. Okay, I got my 8.8. I got your 16.
So let's go
See what
back
you're
to
doing.
here just for a second. So with these new numbers, do I have I have the bigger number in there. I changed to 65.
Yeah, the 65, 75. So it's $4,000. So
But you're looking at, with the 90%, you're looking at just under 400,000 per year in user charges revenue baseline without any increases. What I had in here, and I do want to go back to my numbers only because everything balances if I do this. I'll change it in the next version that you see.
Right.
But just
I
for,
just all your numbers. I just think 33,000 higher is what I'll do.
that's fine. If you want to look at it that way, that's fine. But now you're down to a revenue number of 371. What were we? It was 33,000 higher. Yeah, I guess it's 33,000 higher a second ago. So this is the number I'm going to carry for your user charges revenue. It's going to be 33,000 higher. You multiply that by 10 years, you're talking $300,000. That's kind of a pretty significant impact on the overall rate look. But for now, this is what we have. All right, so let me walk you through this real quick. So the way that we usually do this is we usually have all revenues and all expenses together. And that's how I originally presented it to Jane. And then there was a movement towards trying to segregate a few different things because that's generally how you look at it, almost like in different buckets, so to speak. And really the goal of doing that was to isolate two different groups, to isolate the betterments and the debt in one area and kind of make sure you are factoring in the proper reserves, I'll call them, to be able to cover your debt service for the amount of years that you have to cover it. And that goes out to FY34. And then there was a separate discussion that we had on the other expenses that are covered by retained earnings based on discussions and votes of this group, I believe. And also what to do with the privilege fee capital purchases that we'll talk about as well. Those got isolated. And then we have everything else, which we're calling O&M. And that's where your rates come in and you're covering all your other expenses using your rates and any other revenue sources. The ones that you have, though, are very small besides the rates. But then we had a separate retained earnings calculation tied to that. And that is the number that we were focused on when we put the rate plan together. So the rate plan is solely focused on your O&M because we've already isolated those other things. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. So the top section here is your betterment and debt, and it's between the two greens here that you see. So we have revenues. Revenues in this case are all of your betterment revenues, dollars that have already come in. You're looking at a past year, dollars that are projected to come in if you're looking at a future year, based on the apportionment schedule that was provided to me by Jane. So this would be properties that have not yet fully paid off their betterments. They've been apportioned a yearly amount. And that's what the yearly amount expected to come in is. It's on this revenue line going forward, starting in 24 out. Right. The retained earnings appropriation line, really what that is just retained earnings to balance the budget so that we get a $0 here when we compare revenues and available funds to expenses. Here's your expense line folded. In this case, it's just debt service, but that's the debt that is on your books all the way through FY34. Now, when we first presented this to Jane, it was a 5-year look because that's usually what we do. Sometimes we expand it out. It depends on the situation. Jane wanted to see it all the way out through the end of the debt payoff out through 34. So we expanded it out that far. That's why we're looking at many years in this look as opposed to a 5-year look. So we have for you, it's really an 11-year look going forward, 24 out through 34 to get to the end of the betterment schedule, get to the end of the debt schedule. This section right here is tracking your retained earnings that are specific to the betterments coming in and paying off the debt. Any betterment money that's come in is in this bucket to make sure that it's available, pay off the debt going forward. What we found when we ran these numbers outward, because we did do retained earnings projections as we went out to the right, you can see your bottom line number, which is your projected retained earnings, dwindling a little bit until we get to this time frame right here, which is FY30 and FY31. It's actually in the red at that point. Based on our calculations, it's short by about $12,000, which is this dollar amount right here, yellow. What I did here was I decided to quote unquote borrow it from the O&M balance. It's just $12,000, but it's $12,000 that was needed in order to cover your expenses in that year. Once you get past these 2 years, it builds up again here using these surpluses. So what happens in these outward years, these last 3 years, you're still bringing in money at a similar clip to what you have been the whole time, but your debt falls off significantly. Those
So you no longer have the debt, right?
We end up paying off one of the outstanding bonds.
Yep. So at that case, look at what happens to your retained earnings balance. It goes like that. So I highlighted in orange here. This does not have to be something that's decided the next year or whatever, but it should be in the back of your mind somewhere for future discussion. If this holds true, and I have no reason to believe it doesn't at this point, you're going to end up with $500,000 at the end of this debt payment schedule. It's just going to be sitting there in retained earnings.
Right. So as retained earnings are negative, right? We're dipping in, right? We'll cut not negative, but we're gradually down.
You're not bringing in enough revenue.
We can sleep a little bit better at night, knowing it's those final 3 years out is when we recoup it.
Yep, you're going to have a very nice balance. But the reason why I highlight it is because I don't know what the right answer is, but there's got to be some way to kind of use that ahead of time, maybe to mitigate rate increases or something. Something to think about.
We haven't forecasted large capital needs, just small.
Right.
Where does the privilege fees that we're collecting,
That's coming.
Okay.
So Matt, I just thought of something. We've collected more revenue than we're going to need to pay off our debt. Is that something that's allowed? And if not, we probably, is there someone we can ask to find out if that's in this situation where we can't make a profit, obviously, but does anybody know if you collect more revenue than your debt is, we don't have to pay anybody back, do we? Or
is that due to us refinance? Is that, but that revenue is based on the original bonds, which we refinanced. And that's
part of it is the refinancing and the fact that when this schedule was set up, it was set up for all the years and it didn't take into account that we would be paying off part of the debt sooner than the rest of the debt. So in those years where we're paying it off and then it bounces back up again, it doesn't take into account that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the original betterment was based on standard practice at that time.
I can ask that question, Jane. My dad knows this stuff very well, so I can ask him that question. My guess would be no. You don't have to do anything with it. It's fine. Everything's fine, but it's worth asking the question.
That would be great. Thanks you, Matt. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So next section, we'll get the mic and his privilege now. So this is your small capital contingency section. My understanding is that contingency has been something that is to be funded out of retained earnings every year. It's $30,000. We segregated it for that reason, but also the small capital purchases. We originally had this in here, and we had it incorrect, but we originally had it in here as to be funded by retained earnings as well. I've since learned that is those are purchases to be funded by available privilege fees, but we haven't yet made that adjustment yet. So, Mike, the privilege fees that you keep bringing up,
In here.
we plan to add it to this section, almost like as a separate tracking mechanism for what's available in privilege fees, so that you can fund this capital purchases line here. Okay, so we haven't yet segregated it, even though Jane has already identified that 51,000
Okay.
that you mentioned a moment ago. So what that means is, we're going to get to this in a second, but once we get to the O&M balance, which is in the next section, that money technically is in the O&M retained earnings balance, at least how I have it presented here. We can take it out, move it up here, and make it available to fund capital purchases.
So wait, I want to make sure I understand what you just said. Are you saying that 91,312 in column L includes the 51,000 already? Or is it, so that 51's already accounted for in this, you're going to move it from one bucket to another, or no, we haven't even accounted for the 51 yet here?
Help me with the 91,312. I don't see it.
Sorry, L 41.
41.
But I guess
91,312.
51 is this year, so that'd be 23. I'm sorry.
No. The money that is coming in the privilege fees.
Yeah.
What your question is, Dan?
Yeah, I put it in 24 because I was thinking 24 budget, but 51's really 23. So I got you screwed up there. So
It's
but
gotta
the way
come
you
out of-
worded it, is the 51 in here somewhere? And when you move it up above to the small capital purchases contingency analysis, is something going to take a negative, or no, the 51's not even in here yet?
Okay, so my take is, and I know it's not clear as day because I don't have this as detailed. We decided to go a little bit more summary level with this sheet. It's in that number I just highlighted in yellow.
That 411
That part-
includes
that's
51.
part of your revenues,
Okay. Yep.
because it's in the miscellaneous revenue line in,
Okay.
in your accounting system. So if we were to segregate it, this number would be lower by the privilege fee
51.
amount.
Right. So there's the
And the number
360.
would be up here instead.
Yep.
That means that your retained earnings balance, which is down here, would then project to be 51,000 lower.
Right. Yep. Perfect. That's how I think we should account for it. I think that'd be the better way to look at it.
So that was something that Jane and I have discussed this week. And because of just the way my schedule went this week, we didn't have a chance to tackle it on this sheet. But we tackled it on lines. We just didn't.
We just figured it out kind of today too. So at 1:00 at our meeting with Brian Kevany and everything. So,
Right. So
That
so
privilege fee is meant to be for capital, right? So
right.
kind of,
so
But
just
when
so
we did the FY24 budget, we were thinking we had to account for the expenses if we pay for them. And that's why the budget included it. And you'll see in this model here on line 32, we've zeroed it out for the rest of the years because now we're accounting for it through the privilege fees. And
Yeah.
as Tom indicated, we're not going to buy something unless
we get the
it is
privilege.
covered by the privilege fees we have,
Right.
unless it's an emergency, and then the contingency line should pick that up for us.
Right. And that's what Paul talked about when we were doing our original. Right. Yep.
So we knew going into this meeting, this discussion on the privilege fees tonight did not change what we had planned to do. This was something we had planned to do coming into this meeting. We planned to do that. We just didn't have the chance to do it yet, but we were prepared to talk about it tonight, whether Mike brought it up or not. So,
All right. So
okay.
right now it's in the revenue line in row 4. Got
Right.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
So down here is everything else, and we don't have to look at the totals necessarily. We'll get to that in a second, but O&M, we're calling it O&M, but it's really everything other than the things we've already talked about. Your revenue line is mostly your user charges revenue. It's the other revenues as well. Liens is in there. There's some interest in there, but all minor stuff. Just like I did up above, this retained earnings appropriation is to balance the budget, and there's your expenses. These are your O&M expenses. So this is really everything besides debt service and everything besides the ones that are mentioned up here, your contingency and your small capital purchases. And as already mentioned, this number jumps up because we have that $50,000 truck embedded in there. And then we're also tracking retained earnings. We're actually using the true DOR calculation, which means that money is set aside at year end for the following fiscal year if you need it to balance the budget. So if your budget needs $100,000 because your revenues aren't keeping up, you're going to take it out of retained earnings. It gets set aside the year before and affects that year's certification. So we're doing that calculation well down here, just so you're aware. There's just a lot going on with that retained earnings calculation, but that's what it represents. So this is our total sheet here. When we're focusing on what the rates are going to do, it's impacting this area. It's not impacting the other areas. Those have been segregated.
Right.
So on this next sheet, everything's the exact same, except I've added one row here to show what the rate impact would be based on the rate plan that's on that first tab that was already mentioned.
The percent, when you add the 16%, this is what it's doing.
Yes. It's not 16% on the other tab, but yes, same theory.
Yeah, whatever you put it in that. Yep.
Yep. And you can see that this would be additional revenue in that year based on the rate increase. And then the next year has it added to it. So then the next calculation is worked off of this number. This number gets added to it, and so on and so forth. But everything else is the same here. And then if we go to the first tab, which was already mentioned, this is where it kind of all comes together. I like to present it in a very high level format here, using both the table and the graph to show. And then we also have a user impact piece right below that, which we can talk about too. But this is where the multi-year look comes in, because if you're doing just a 1 year look, what that really means is if you focus like right here, for example, let's focus on this number, this 295,000. That is what my projections are saying your retained earnings balance for O&M will be at the end of the current fiscal year, FY23. Okay. If you compare that to your O&M expenses, that's 60%. That's a high number. Okay. There's nothing wrong with having that. It's just generally we don't see it that high. The target, as Jane has mentioned in our conversations and that I agree with, is somewhere in the 15 to 25% range. That's what DOR would recommend as your balance. So if you were to set your rate like the 1 year look to completely have your revenues cover your expenses, in theory, that number wouldn't change. That retained earnings number would not change. You would stay at a number right around 300,000. You would stay at a percentage right around 60%. So in other words, you technically have retained earnings to play with or use for some other factor, for something, whether it's to purchase something or maybe just to mitigate rate increases. So I designed this in such a way that you can use retained earnings to mitigate rate increases. So that's why you're not seeing the 16% on there, a number that's still kind of high, but not 16% for year one. And yeah, this plan doesn't have to be this way. This is just what we put together. This plan eats into retained earnings enough that you see the blue line, which is your projected retained earnings, dip a decent amount before it stabilizes and then kind of comes back up again. This orange line that's on the graph is what we're considering to be the target. 20% is something that we like to target. It's right in the middle of that range I just mentioned a moment ago. It can be another percentage. It's a configurable amount that you can set right over here. So if you want it to be 30, you could change it in the graphs update. But for now, we have it as 20. I think that's a good starting point, at least for this conversation. The way that we designed this was, I feel like it's okay to go below the line as long as it's not significantly below the line. And this is arguably significant, but we designed this so that we keep retained earnings positive. That's this row, even though these 30,000 balances are a little bit low. So we could design this differently if we wanted to have those balances a little higher. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that these are pretty high percentages. So that was factored in too. Now, let's also keep in mind that we also have $33,000 additional that we're going to be playing with here. So these numbers aren't going to quite look quite as drastic the next time I present this to you, the next time I send it to you.
But also, not to make the model too complicated, I think maybe not next year, but I'd like to think there are 2 or 3 years that we could assume Alta and other users to be identified would be closer to the 90% occupancy. This assumes Alta stays at 65% occupancy forever, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if you wanted to, yes, Michael, if we were to project that way, more complicated, but not too difficult. We could do
Okay.
that. Just have to
But-
build different columns.
But
based on
this is
percentage.
excellent. I've been on, I don't know, I can't remember how long you've been on the committee. I'm the engineer on the team, by the way. I never really understood whether the return earnings we had was too much, too little, and what it meant. It's an excellent presentation for me. Thank
Yeah.
you.
No?
So I know that we're going to have more revenue, but I'm concerned with the fact that the line 9, having only like 30,000, 40,000 in retained earnings. If we have a major problem at the plant, that's probably not going to be enough
Yeah,
to
no,
cover. And that's
No,
why
I agree.
I agree. No, I'm not. I agree that like I'm one of the things I'm struggling with is I'm not struggling with this. I want to go back to the decision we made, right, based upon what we did with Paul and all the various things we laid out. What would that have had to been if we kept the base and the variable? Would we have needed a 20% increase?
You're talking about what? You're talking about for 23?
Yeah, because of Alta, because we didn't bill them for, and I'm still not clear. Was it a quarter or 2 quarters?
quarter 4 and quarter 1.
Okay, so that
So 22 and
yeah, so it's like that 51,636 is really X, and like now we fill that in, and what would we have had to announce? You know, we announced a 0% on base, and then with a variable, and now so what I'm playing with here is I'm trying to understand is even without this knowing this dip in retained earnings, and we were trying to hold it, let's just say, right, the prior year, what percent increase would we have had to announce? And it would have been pretty big.
well, also the
We were saying.
non-payment number was very low. It probably that 2.9 should have been closer to 9. So that's one of, and then the 20K was not, which was probably for 23. Yeah, it should have been included there too.
Right.
Yeah,
So
Or
there's that.
some amount of that.
But what that 51,636 would be, again, just take a rough number really quick for right now. Is that like 40? Because we didn't do 2 quarters of Alta. Is it 35? I got to get my
Well,
HCF. I'm more thinking gallons, but
If we do the formulas right here, full Alta has this 35,000 added to it. Half Alta has 35,000 divided by 2. So
Right.
Does that mean you're dealing with this number right here because it's half the Alta?
okay, so it would have been 42.
So it would have been this
I
number.
think that makes sense. Yeah, with half Alta.
So that's what we should have put in. Plus we have the negative $5,000, right?
20 for the year. Yep.
20 for the year, but Alta we didn't start doing, or is that 20 for this year too, like fiscal year 23?
It's forever. It's
It
for
should
10
have
years
forever
or
for
something
10
like that.
years. Yeah.
You're right,
So
but
it's
I
10
meant
grand.
as we looked at 23, so we have that on top of it.
Yep.
So you got to take another 20 grand haircut.
So do you want me to take out 20 grand?
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
would have said our rates, right? We were 70 short, so we would have been figuring out when we did our rate adjustment, this is what we should have been looking at. And if we kept it all variable, shit, I mean, yeah, we wouldn't have got there.
You might have had to touch the base charge.
We would have had to touch the base. Okay.
The one thing that I've been thinking about here is the tier 2. Darren, you probably remember how many people go into tier 2. I don't know, that analysis you did,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that number
The
is
wild
high
game.
enough. But I think we want to be careful how much we increase that number because it's already 3 times what the tier 1 is.
Right.
We
Right.
just need to be aware that let's not overdo that one too much.
Right. I think we did say we we're going to keep that in parallel, but yeah, I mean,
Because Alt is when they get up to, closer to their occupancy, they're going to pop right into tier 2 and, great for us, but I'm sure they're going to be knocking on our door saying, whoa, what's up,
Yeah, Yeah, that's a good point, because
But
you're
even the
still,
smaller person who, a smaller business, once they hit that $15, that's a lot.
All right. So now we have where we didn't do it there. We didn't have as much flow. So now we're almost trying to like make up for that and what the reality. Okay.
So Darren, based on the analysis you did before, we could maybe come up with a conservative number for what we on average see for tier 2.
Yeah.
I think this number was just a guesstimate at the time when it was done.
Yep.
It seems like that's a little bit low, but we
Yeah, but
just
it's
want to
at the end of the day,
confirm.
it's 4,000. I mean, it's not the thing that you're going to swing. But like where you have, like you said, it's conservative, but let's say it's 500. All right. So then it would be 6,000 or 7,000 around there. Right.
Yep. Okay.
maybe keep it low there, and anything you get is a bonus, right?
Right.
That was the
Right.
idea. Of
That's
keeping
how
it
I look
low.
at that. Then that's why I was looking at your 65, 75. It was $4,000. All right. That's our bonus. Right. So, not our bonus. I hate to say it that way, but exactly what you were thinking about. Right.
We do better off hoping that the town can stimulate economic growth.
Right.
We get 9,000 gallons of users we don't know about. We collect $160,000 and get more flow.
That's where I'm struggling to is like where we're at is we've said, and Paul's said in past meetings that 667 base rate we have is like pretty high compared to other municipalities. So
On the privilege fee, the 6507.
no, the 667 on the base charge.
Oh, that number. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
We've said compared to other towns, we are like one of the highest ones on a base charge. So that's why we were trying to hold that and make it more of a variable, right? That's what the whole charter we've been trying to get after, right? But this is saying we're not there.
So this,
Correct.
just so I understand it, this box down here is meant to represent standard user, an average user?
That's most of our 2-bedroom
we-
condos and homes and things like that.
Yeah, so that's
Mostly
the
condos.
charge, that's a quarterly number right there, isn't it? For that type of household?
It's the base charge. The quarter is down 2 lines on 29.
No, I know, but the
But
base
that-
charge per quarter is the
Yes.
number I've highlighted,
Yep.
Yes.
right?
Yep. That's correct.
Yeah, then if to answer Darren's question or comment on what Darren just said, yes, I agree. That number is very high for base charge.
Yes. Right. It's because I think about it like my septic, right? Like, okay, I pay 500 or whatever to get it pumped.
Usually the
right?
base charge is somewhere for a residential household, I would say somewhere from like $20 to $40 per bill. And usually you see the flow base rate charge higher than that, usually.
Right.
That's
So
more
so
standard.
that's where you're saying, even if when whatever we're looking at, this is what I want to ask when we start playing with the model, right? Do you do 100% increase on flow? But even when you were playing with it, that doesn't even get us home.
It
But-
doesn't seem like you have enough flow
Yeah.
for that to make a dramatic difference.
Right. But here it would. So like take what I'm looking at right here. If you did increase the tier 1 100%, 85,000 would go to another 85,000. We're still 12 grand short, but that's kind of what you'd be doing.
Yeah.
But now,
If you didn't want to touch the base charge, that's one way to
Yeah.
look at it. Yeah.
Yep.
But again, that's your 1 year look. So by
Yeah.
looking at it multiple years and even to retain earnings like I showed you on that other tab,
Right.
you don't have to go quite that high.
right,
But-
because of
Right.
that future year out, the 3-year, I forget exactly how we want to word that,
Yeah.
but that we're going to get that because we're going to be paying off our debt.
I'm going to be optimistic and say in the next year and a half, we'll allocate the remaining 9,000 gallons, which between flow and privilege will give us over 200 grand in our coffers.
Yeah.
That's not shown up anywhere on this.
Right. I agree, Mike. Yeah.
And even if I'm
that's
doubly optimistic, I mean, we can continue this discussion and in all seriousness, I think next time I'd like to, if we can get an update on the flow, because I really think that will factor into a lot of this. And,
I agree with you, Mike.
if in a month Alta's at 44%, that'll tell us something. If it's at 58%, that'll tell us something.
It's like what you're saying, Mike. It's okay. This is what we need to do for rates.
Yep.
But we're doing this based on we're going to grow Wayland. we're gonna sell that remaining, and we think we might have more, maybe, right? Depending on what the
Right, but
real
we
flow
can't,
is.
we can't
We
count
can't
on
commit that. We can't
But-
commit to that, but
But that makes that offsets me being maybe a little less conservative than others on the call. But
I agree.
we have 2 more meetings to talk about this and see
Yep.
see what the facts are. And we're a small system. That's why we're so sensitive to every damn connection.
Mhm.
Have you ever looked at actual billing data to see what those totals are? Have you? Yeah. Yeah.
Darren did last year, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Ask the question again. What was your question, Matt?
Have you looked at what the bills themselves? What bills get into tier 2, so you have a sense of how much that is?
Yeah, I did it. I did it last year. I put it into a model where I was trying to see the variability of it. So I was looking at the variability from a month to month and how much was in tier 1, tier 2. And because we were worried about swings in flow on what that would impact. And, the residentials are pretty steady state. So we did look at that a little bit.
Okay.
I would do it again. Let's do it based upon the next 8 months we've had since I last did it.
Okay, so would that be worthwhile to look at to get a little bit more comfortable with the flow?
Yeah, and again, I looked at it from a variability perspective, right? What's like a standard deviation on it?
Jane, is that something that's easy to produce?
Basically, you need the same sheet I gave you last year, which shows the reads for each property, and
Right.
I have it up
It's
till
130
quarter
some odd connected users and their monthly flow and their monthly bill.
I don't have the
Well,
bill.
It'd be
I
quarterly.
have the
but-
flow data.
The flow data, right? Okay,
Yep.
that's right.
So
The bill was
I'll
not
make
in
a
there.
note to send that
It
to
was their
Darren.
flow data, right?
So when you say reads, Jane, you're talking about the quarterly reads for their quarterly bills?
Yep, the water usage.
That's what was on it.
And it also includes who's connected, who's not connected, commercial, real estate.
Let me try to find it, Matt. I'll send it. Whatever I did.
I'll send the new stuff to you tomorrow.
Can you
Okay.
include me too, Jane?
I'd be willing to
Darren, does Matt want to see it?
throw something together for you guys if that's helpful.
Or did Darren, do you want to do it? We want to get
No,
Matt.
I think it may be good for Matt too. I mean, it's a fresh
Okay,
set of
thank you
eyes on
very
it, right?
much.
And a different. You've been now living, breathing this thing for, what'd you say, 2-3 weeks? So,
Maybe a little bit longer.
yeah. So,
No,
Matt
this
and I
is
need a
this is
vacation.
very this is very helpful, and
Yeah.
thank you for keeping it in a format that we are familiar with.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Matt's
So-
done a great job moving all the numbers around, and I'm very impressed.
Thank you, guys. All right, so I definitely have some to-dos that's coming out of this, but it sounds like we're on the right track here. We just got to do some minor tweaking. I'll move those privilege fees like we talked about. We'll get the 33,000 back in there. So the rate plan, as you see it next time, will look a little bit different, and then maybe we can even just kind of tweak it on the fly if you guys want to see something a little bit different. And between now and then we'll get a little bit more comfortable with where we think the flow is going to be in these different tiers, because then we can get a little bit more comfortable with what we want to do there as well.
And Jane, help me remember the rates have to be proposed at the next meeting, or and they're pretty much locked in, and we vote the following, or we have more. Do we have a month or 2 months?
You've got 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Not until, I mean, we can come up with what we think is going to happen and then finalize it in June.
that's what we did last year.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Matt?
I just want to make sure I have the next meeting on my calendar. Jane, you've already shared that with me, right?
I did, but I'll send a note again for you. I think I have it on the agenda.
I have it May 10th. Is that right?
It's just, actually, is it May 9th?
Yeah.
I think we decided on a Tuesday
May
for some
9th.
reason.
I got it in my calendar as May 9th.
Yeah, someone had a conflict.
Good thing I asked. All right, I'll move it.
May 9th and June 14th. So good, we cross off another agenda item.
Yeah,
I know this took a while, guys, so appreciate it. Appreciate
yeah.
it.
I took
the
up a lot of
team
your
here.
time.
A lot of
I think
effort you guys put in during the day, so.
Yeah, this is the most important thing we do.
Yeah.
Yep. Besides trying to get that extra 9,000, right, Michael?
Well, no, all I could do is be a cheer. We're not we're not the planning board, but if they're listening, you heard it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your attention tonight. We'll have this a little bit more dialed in the next time we meet, but I appreciate your comments and your feedback, and we'll keep moving forward.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
very
Thanks,
much,
Matt.
Matt.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Okay. Anything else on that? That was really good. Okay. Then did we cover Alta? Jared, are you still with us? Anything to add?
Yeah, no, just as of Monday, Alta was at 46.79%. That's really it for them. The project update, the Route 20 pump station and paving and everything is going to commence within the first 2 weeks of May. And they, or at least Dan Roop from Ty and Bond is pretty confident that everything can get done, paid, and like reimbursed and everything within the time frame that we need. Yeah, and then that work's going to be done by RJV and Elm Electric. They came out to just see the site last week just to make sure, just to plan everything out, and they know what they're doing. They've worked together. So I think it's going to move along swiftly and get done right. And then I can go right into the operating report if that's.
I did have a question. So you're talking there about the final SCADA improvements we're trying to get in under the grant before it expires?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, Tom?
Yeah, so there's SCADA, but then there's also a significant amount of pump work that's going to go into that Route 20 pump station, replacing pumps and all of that. So there are some punch list items associated with the effluent pump that's on Route 20, the brand new pump. But as Jared had mentioned, we've been working closely with our JV and with Ty and Bond. The MassWorks grant expires June 30th. So we have to have work performed. They have to bill us. We have to pay it and submit a reimbursement request by June 30th. But we're confident that the schedule that we've laid out will accomplish all of those things. So we should be in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So then the operating report, sure.
Yeah. So literally the day after our meeting last month, where I told you everything was going perfectly, I came in the next morning and there hadn't really been any treated flow, which isn't necessarily weird because it's the morning, people are waking up. There's it's not necessarily gonna kick in and treat anything. But after a little bit, and when I went to check the pump stations, it was still hadn't treated anything. So when I went to the Route 20 pump station, it was mostly full. The pumps hadn't kicked on. I was able to run them in manual. I could hear them running. I gave it some time, and the level was going down. It turned out that just some scum had gotten onto the floats and just kind of weighed it down. So once it didn't know that the level was high enough to kick on. But once it got down to a certain level, I was able to kick the pumps back into auto, and they finished pumping down the wet well, and it's been good since then.
Okay.
So that was it.
Does that Route 20 pump station just receive flow from Alta?
No, it takes in pretty much everything other than the one condo complex that's like right behind the plant. The Alta pumps influent pump station does pump into that.
Okay.
And then Friday, March 17th, midday we had an MBR communication loss alarm, and while it said that, and it said one of the anoxic basins was offline, it was still receiving information from our from the DO meter and the temperature gauge in there. So in trying to fix that, talking to Pez and everything, trying to restart the computer, the SCADA system and everything, we ended up trying to get into one of the electrical cabinets and had to shut off the power to it. And in doing so, when we gave it back power, the communication loss issue was gone, but the blowers would not start. And I had a long conversation with Ron Smith from Tyne Bond, the SCADA expert, and he was just able to determine that it wasn't a communication issue, it was an electrical issue. So I had to call Yes Electric. They came out and were able to determine that 2 of the high voltage fuses had blown. And so while the VFDs were able to get a little bit of power and make it think that they had power, since they weren't getting the high voltage, they weren't able to actually have enough power to start and run. So that did eventually get taken care of. That night it got taken care of. And while the plant was down because the plant was down the whole time because the blowers were not able to run, and so the membranes couldn't work. The EQ tank started to rise, and I did call in an emergency vac truck, but by the time the plant got up and running, the vac truck was still over an hour away. So I ended up canceling that. I don't know if we get billed for that still.
I haven't seen a bill for it yet.
Okay. I don't know how long it would take for something like that to come in, because usually I just get a slip in person. And then we had a guy from cooling and heating specialist came and looked at the HVAC system. Everything looks good. He just replaced a few filters and bought us some extras to have on hand.
Great. Well, I guess good thing we're not running at full capacity, or those shutdowns would have been more stressful.
Yeah, definitely. It was a close call, but the tanks were able to hold everything, and we were able to maneuver things so that while it was down, it wasn't problematic.
Okay.
Sounds like Jared did a good job handling all of that.
Yeah. Will the new SCADA alleviate some of this, or is it already in place?
For the Route 20, it should it should be able to actually, when it goes into alarm call, it should call out either Whitewater or myself, and it will also appear on the computer screen at the plant.
Good. So when we're at full capacity, you won't have to wait on that. You happen to be on your rounds and checking.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's scary.
So we can still get the full capacity, Darren.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get what you're saying. Makes us sleep a little better when we're at full capacity. That SCADA system's going to help us sleep a little better.
Right. Or maybe not, but
yeah, understand. But yes, but not have to be like, oh my God, I got to get to the plant at 6 a.m. just to make sure.
Right.
Yep. I get it.
Okay. Any questions on that? That's great. Darren, anything else?
No, I'm good. The active
Okay.
month. Good sleuthing.
Thank you.
Jane, what do we?
Yep, sewer use applications, not a lot to tell you new. The big thing was the change in Alta, the lowering of their design flow, and we discussed that previously. And then I will add that on to our 10,000, and we said it would come up to 9,268. So that's very interesting. And then we had 2 potential sewer use applications in the town center. One has decided not to continue with their lease, so that was canceled. And then we still have one that's potentially coming in. We've given them the town center all the design flow information, and we're just waiting to see if they sign their lease, and then we'll proceed with that one coming into the town center. And that's it's called Chocolate. Do you remember the name? Darren, I just forgot. I had it a minute ago. It's a chocolate company coming in, and they used to be on Route 9.
Chocolate therapy, right?
That's it, chocolate therapy. Good one. Jared is now helping me and learning how to do design flow and calculating sewer use applications. So we have more than one person doing it. So, go ahead.
On the town center, does that mean it's a rejiggering of the allotment they already have, or to give them a little more?
Exactly. It's just a rejiggering. So any place they have if they need more, they will just borrow from a vacant space and
Okay.
move that around as needed.
So it's us keeping track
Yep.
so that
I think they have around 900 right now. And there was something called Dogtopia that would have taken up a lot of design flow, but due to regulations with the planning and different regulations of the town, the overlay district, they were not allowed to come in. So that was another one that we were working really hard on, but has not occurred. So
the town center has assuming this one you're talking to now, they have roughly of about 900 gallons of allocated but unused right
Correct.
now. Okay.
Correct.
That they're paying the base flow on, but we're not
Yep.
seeing any flow on it.
Correct. So they pay the
Okay.
base, yes.
Has the Council on Aging, have they formally asked anything yet, or you?
They were going to hire a company to go out and calculate the design flow, but they have not come to us yet. Have
Okay.
you heard anything, Mike?
Just that they feel it's going to be less than what they signed on for.
Which was 3,000. So
Okay.
yeah, we're just waiting to hear. I'm kind of hoping we hear pretty soon, but it'll be what it'll be, when it comes.
Yep. And that I do, since we brought up the Council on Aging, was it discussed that the new pump station is kind of in the old right of way of their access
It's actually closer to the local.
on Route 20?
Oh, wait a minute. The pump station. I don't know if it's in the
That
right
was
way
just
of the
built.
access. No,
Just be
you mean
prepared.
the driveway to go in?
No, it's just it's an old curb cut. That's where entrance was 30 years ago.
Okay, yep. They're thinking about coming down, what are the
side
condos
street.
road there? Yeah, that side street right in back there. So,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of controversy on that.
Yeah, I think
Lillian Way.
Yeah.
So we'll have
Okay.
to wait and see.
Yep.
So that's
Okay.
it for sewer use applications right now.
Okay. Monthly reports. You sent some.
So this
stuff
is
in?
up to you guys. We've seen a lot of numbers so far. Do you
Yeah.
want to look at the monthly report or the projected 13-month? So I took February and projected it out.
We've been tracking to kind of like what Matt's been showing, right? That it's been negative and I've been kind of nervous and.
Yep. So I can show you both schedules. I have them here.
But he's basically saying it's going to come true. What I've been.
I think I could skip. I'm comfortable skipping
I'm fine.
March. It's whether you want to see anything beyond that, or do you feel you had enough, Darren?
I got your file. I think we're.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I saw your 66.
You're cutting me short tonight.
We just spent so much with Matt, and
I agree. That's why I said that.
The number you guys had on there, and what we're going to fall short is kind of like what we've been tracking to anyway. So.
Correct.
And now we know why. It's the 20 grand. It's the 41,000 versus 51,000, and it's 90% collected versus we estimate 98.5.
Right.
Those are the
I
three
guess
main contributors that add up to 90 grand or whatever.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't really apply, but is it appropriate to conclude that the town center is not in the 10% of unpaid bills?
Actually, there's one person in the town center that's in the little condo units that's above all the stores.
Yeah.
That person never pays. So there is one person, but I think most of the companies are not. There might be one other person in there too.
So we bill each of their tenants for them, or the water and sewer.
Unless they have a master meter. If there's some that are on a master meter and they bill that separately.
Okay. So you're telling me it's a resident, not a tenant, not a business. It's not the storefront that the chocolate place or whatever might go in.
No.
Okay.
Nope, that was your
But
question.
10% still 30 grand. I mean, if, I'm just using rough 300,000.
No, I think Jane's
Not
saying
one-
we're
it's not
talking
one
an
person.
apartment. It's
I know.
It's an
I get it.
apartment, yes.
But that one apartment's not causing a 10%.
No, it's probably less than the 200.
Contributing, but
She
it's
hasn't paid, this person hasn't paid in years, so that it's a decent number. But I have that, so I can give,
In the
That's
end, who's
confidential.
responsible?
yeah.
The tenant or the property owner?
I'm not sure. I'm sure and we were billing individually this person, so it would be the tenant.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
am I sharing the agenda? No.
Nope. We see you.
Okay. I keep hitting share screen, so I wonder if, and I have nothing else to close.
Well,
It's showing you as a host. You should be able to, but
I
well,
have nothing that
I
says-
think I can. So we're moving on from the financial report. Thank you. And then on to the minutes.
Okay, minutes. Let's see. Hey, Rick. I'm just going to ask my husband why I can't share the screen. So I want to share the minutes. I'm not sharing anything right now, but
Well,
I want to share the minutes now. There's some,
select it.
so I selected it and share.
No, select it here and then say share there.
Oh, I get it. Wrong spot. There we are. Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to have my husband around. If you want me to move up, just let me know.
Yep. I have them over on another screen here. Just
Yeah, there's the thing on that. I did send Tom.
I'm going to move up a little if it's okay.
so this just points out in the occupancy part, the River Edge has went up 9% in 1 month.
I think there's a potential to be higher than what we're projecting, but we
Yeah.
do want to be conservative. So
I do see moving trucks in there every time I go to the transfer station.
Good.
hopefully they're moving in.
But basically every 10% is $4,000 in flow at our current
Yeah.
rate. So just
But-
think of it that way.
But
Just-
you'll have to keep reminding me, Darren, how the occupancy projection really is not that significant.
Right. It's at our current rate, at our
Right.
current what we're doing. But
Right.
that's what that equates to. Every 10 points of occupancy is, let's call it $5,000.
So for Mill Creek, they had indicated they were interested in maybe doing some kind of analysis to see if they could increase our treatment plant. And Tom had asked them to send us a letter, and I don't think we've received anything, have we, Tom?
Nope, all quiet.
Yep.
Or if they're listening, they're more than welcome to write a check for $180,000 and pick up the 9,000 gallons that's out there.
Won't
be enough.
But it'll get them part of the way, and then they could figure out what to do with the rest online on their facility.
Yeah, okay.
You want me to go up? Are you good?
I'm good.
I do have I'll save my comments for.
Would somebody, does anybody have any changes or would like to make a motion?
I think I'm good. I motion to approve the meeting minutes from, what month are we in here? We're in April, so the meeting minutes from March on this day of April 12th to 2023.
I second that.
Then a roll call.
All those in favor, Mike. Mike Hinton.
Darren Bach, yes.
Okay. Reading the minutes prompts just two comments. the website updates.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what,
Is that controlled by a webmaster or us? Like, if we, where I'm going is, if we got some high school kid to do community service and come in and work for us, would that be allowed? Or does the town have someone that everything has to be run through?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, Jane has the ability and regularly posts things and removes things, that's local to the, to the commission's
new
website.
data, right?
Yeah, those types of things. But, for a format and the content, the layout of it, all of that has to go through IT.
Okay.
So unfortunately, it probably would not be practical to bring somebody
okay.
in. Yeah.
And then on the PFAS, in my day job, I found our PFAS data. It's all posted online with the DEP. I found it.
Okay.
But did you get the information from Whitewater? I believe
No.
I thought we sent you a report with that.
Oh,
Oh,
I
no,
thought it
that's
was-
right. Jared was telling me that we initially did some PFAS, but we were about to maybe do another one in May and June.
yeah. No, it's the state has a portal where all this data is publicly accessible, and Wayland is up there, and I'm looking at it.
So
It's
did
there.
Whitewater do our PFAS data?
I don't know who does it. I just see it.
Jared, do you know?
I do know. Oh, Jared.
Yeah, I think it was the last PFAS test was in November. So it should have been on that DMR. But we have not done it yet we only have to do it twice per year. We have
Yeah.
not done it yet for 2023.
Jared,
Yeah,
if
I'm
you could do me a favor, I think if you don't have the November DMR, I don't know what I'm looking for PFAS. If you could take a quick look and see if that data is on there or whether it's separate. And because we should, we're paying for that and we should be aware of what we have.
Yeah,
I
the
just want to make
last
sure we're getting the report.
data that's posted on this public website is from last June.
Oh, June.
Yeah. And
And we think it was done as of November, so there should be one more. Maybe it hasn't made it to the website yet.
okay. Anyone have anything else?
Yeah, we talked about, again, getting together for the web, and I was gonna help review, and you guys said, hey, we need a little bit more time. I'm actually here next week. So if that works. I'm not
That
traveling.
would be Tom, do you think that would be possible to get together with IT and whoever?
Yeah, right now it's actually the IT director, Mike McCann, that's been doing this. We've had, one visit with the Board of Public Works looking to do something similarly. Let me reach out to Mike McCann tomorrow and see if he has any availability next week. It would be great to be able to, and what we did is we actually just, sat at the conference room table at DPW facility and looked at it together and went through the format and the content.
Right. Yeah. I'd be.
Or was it the 17th to the 21st you had available, or the 14th to the? What's a good time for you, Darren? And we'll just kind of.
The 17th, 21st. I'm usually good morning.
AM. Okay, great.
Yeah. AM would be better for me right now. We got a couple of conflicts here and there, but you just pick it and I'll try to move my calendar or whatever I need to move. But again, it's school vacation week, so I'm also trying to not work that entire week from my day job.
I'm just looking at the last report that I see from Whitewater is the one that was sent out March 8th. Yeah. Okay.
The last DMR.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing on there, right?
No, it's the traditional parameters for the plant.
Okay.
Jared, do you have access to their EPA portal where they file this stuff? Who
Yes.
signs that? Is it?
yeah, since Mark was leaving, we had to kind of rush to get me onto there, and that's where we also needed Tom to be the executive director, because at first it wasn't enough for they needed kept asking if we had a higher power to sign off on it.
Got
But
it.
we're good now. I signed off on the last DMR, and I will keep doing it going forward.
Great. Yeah, you might be able to see it in there. I don't know, but the EPA is not requiring it. It's the state. So it's a little confusing. But okay. We know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's not coming from us. So we're just the middleman. And we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You can go online, you can look at probably 100 other facilities that are listed here. Okay, anything else then? Do we adjourn?
Well, we have topics not anticipated, reasonably
Yeah, topic
anticipated,
not
anybody?
anticipated. I think that's what we were just doing. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I was gonna say,
Anything else? Not
And we have future meetings, the 9th, which we already discussed, and June
And the-
14th for the
Mhm.
rate hearing.
right.
And that's it. I mean,
Okay.
you could go in July if you wanted, but do you want to wait?
I say we wait and see if we feel we need it. How about that?
Sure.
I mean, with the online, this is approved, right? For
Yep.
and booking a month or so in advance is probably sufficient. It seems.
Well, we should do a couple months because, there's only,
Right. But I'm
go
saying if we put that decision off till May,
we're
would
fine.
that be sufficient? Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
meant. Yeah. Okay, then I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Mike Gittin in favor.
Aaron Bach, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jane and Tom and Jared. That was very productive.
Good
Yeah.
meeting. Very
Thank
good
you,
meeting. Yes,
everybody.
thanks.
Good night. Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.